All right, y'all. What's going on, everybody? We are back for another Hot Fire Track 3 of QLC, Quarter Life Crisis. And I think a lot of the times with the quarter life crisis that we all go through, as we talked about last week, shout out to Dose of Jazz, you know, something gonna happen. Now, I don't want to be Mr. Negative and y'all like, oh, y'all being negative, Nancy, but in reality, something's gonna happen. In that age gap, maybe not necessarily at 25, maybe 26, and maybe not 26, maybe 32. But in between that, like mid age, something's gonna happen that's gonna change your life forever. And sometimes it's something, that's a normal big change, like a moving of a state or a new baby or a baby in general, or like Jazz had vitiligo, that changed her life forever. Everybody don't get that, so but I digress. All right, so today's topic is knowing when to take a mental break. All right. I think a lot of times we don't know when to take a break. And I think that which leads into the meme, which says, make the choice to take a break or your mind and body will do it for you. I'm a firm believer in that. You know, things happen, things change. With my inspirations for this week, I think about that, how you ever been in a situation where you just kept going, and your brain was just fried, and you kept trying to produce content, you kept trying to set up stuff, and it just wasn't working? That's the sign you need a break. You need more sleep, something. So many people in this generation brag about only getting 4 hours of sleep. I'm like, it's not okay, but it is what it is. Okay, so as always, y'all, well, not as always, but we keeping things going. This is track 3, and guess what? I got another guest today. All right, what's going on?
Izzy, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So tell the people what's your name, where you're from, and what you do for a living.
Vincent A. Lanci here in Tampa, Florida. It is getting hot now, recording this in July. I am an author for children and mental health speaker in schools. I have a few mental health books with the third one on the way. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit today, and I'm excited to be here.
All right, good. So, like I said, now for those that don't know, I've actually done 2 episodes on his podcast. You have 2 podcasts, correct?
Yeah, we got a mental health break and that entrepreneur show.
Okay, okay. And how are both of them doing right now?
They're doing pretty good. That entrepreneur show just recently hit 10,000 downloads, which is humbling because that's just grinding, like putting a weekly episode out, staying consistent. And mental health break isn't too far behind. Gives it a great opportunity to connect with people that we never would have without doing these podcasts. Like me and Izzy, he mentioned this is our third or fourth time together. And I think it's going to be another great talk.
Okay, so now I want to get to do some definitions, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind, right, wrong, or indifferent when you hear them. All right. So the first one, mental breakdown.
Mental breakdown. Hit pause. Just hit pause.
All right, the word break,
Relax.
and finally the word focus.
Grind.
All right, so I got everything comes from dictionary.com. So I went ahead and got mental breakdown. It says nervous breakdown is a term that's sometimes used to describe symptoms of intense mental and emotional distress. These feelings make it difficult or even impossible to carry on normal functioning and complete daily tasks. All right. The definition of break is interrupt a sequence, course, or continuous state. And then focus, the center of interest or activity. Now, that definition of break is interesting because it says to interrupt something. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think of interrupt, or at least me, I think of something negative. But in reality, there are good interruptions. And I think that a lot of the time we get caught up in thinking like we have to keep things going. But what I've learned a long time ago is if you don't take a break, I learned as a kid really, if you don't take a break, you'll work yourself, which we'll talk about a little later too. You'll work yourself sick, if nothing else. And now you force to take a break, which is longer than what would have been if you took like a day or a few hours off. Now you got to take 3-4 days, and now you're losing ground and time. And now you got to make up for it. Have you ever worked yourself sick?
I've worked myself to the point of creeping up on that burnout. We hear that a lot. I think we're all guilty of working when we're into the zone and we just keep going, going, going. But when I was really writing my first book, Left for Dead, I'd find myself just so anxious to keep going 6 hours, 7 hours, don't want to put it down. And then even though if I took that break for even 5, 10 minutes, I would come back so much sharper. I'm just now working unproductively and fixing things again when I go back to it because I wasn't thinking as clearly.
I'm working on a project, and I think God gave me the download for it. I'm not gonna say it. I'll say it to you after air, off air.
Right, right.
And I got a project that started. I got the idea for it in end of 2020. Started it in 2020. Had the ball going forward in 2021. Took a big break because the project's still not done. People took a big break. Started back on it at the end of 2021, a little bit at the beginning of this year, and it's still not completed. Now, part of me wants to just go and finish it, but I want it to be so I don't believe in perfect because nothing is perfect, but I want it to be the best that it can be. So I haven't went back to it yet, but the goal is to start back really when I'm led to. Right now, I really don't feel like I've been led to, but I know,
Right.
it's supposed to be um 22 parts and I have like 17 parts. So I'm more than halfway done. It's just I want to, end it off perfectly and set it up nicely. So it was good that you kind of said that, you used to just take 5-6 minute breaks, but now you just kind of go with the flow with your projects and your books and things. What are you working on now? Any books you working on now?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that, but I want to relate right to the story you just told where you took a break for so long and you had to go back to that project. This book, Mental Health Week, I'm a fifth grade teacher. I take the kids on a mental health field trip to end the school year. I had wrote this in the beginning of 2020 of the pandemic. So it was talking about the kids wearing masks and only doing Zoom field trips and all these things. By the time I got ready to put it out, that had passed for the majority of the country. So I had to rewrite this whole book, do it again. But it was a
Wow.
good reflection period to make it more modern. You want to give the best value you can to everybody who supports your projects. But right now we're working on that last age group. This book is really for second grade to fifth graders. I have Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health for those older students and adults our age. But now we're going to have a book from mommy and me to that second grade for mental health, teaching kids the basics of mental health in easy sentences, teaching them how to not only speak, but take care of themselves at a young age. I can't speak for you, but when I was in school, there was very little mental health discussion, really, if
Really?
anything at all. We had health class, but I have no takeaways from my schooling about hearing mental health. It just wasn't really discussed, especially as men.
Exactly. So now you say you teach fifth grade. What do you teach?
This is just I'm a homeroom teacher. I have my class, and they go to different classes. But in the book, it's kind of like the Magic School Bus, but it's the Magic Track. You walk a quarter mile, and you take activities with a different expert. I teamed up with 7 around the country in both of my books to provide different value on their experted areas. Everything from yoga, meditation, to being creative, to knowing that it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to have feelings. Really, just letting these kids know that you're going to have some good times and some bad times, and that's okay. And hopefully that helps them a little bit.
I can dig it. Love to see it. All
Yeah.
right. So let's move into our segment I like. What does this have to do with mental health? And as we all know, we just ask questions and, get the statistics and the fact on each topic and how it relates to mental health. So nobody has to wonder what this topic has to do with mental health. So now, before we get into that, you call yourself the mental health author and speaker for students. What exactly do you mean by that?
It means I'm going to go in there and make a difference with your students. I've really focused on these books to provide value in the school districts. I want to be there, especially as a male. I'm sure you can relate, Izzy. It's come up on your show, I'm sure, where we're taught to mask our emotions, mask our feelings, be tough men, especially our father's age demographic. If you were born in the 60s, 70s, 80s, that's what it was. And I'm going in there, like I said, with that book to let people know, hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to have good and bad days. And with good stories, you can relate to a lot of people. Unfortunately, I had something very bad happen to me, hit by a drunk driver while walking home. Relearned how to walk, talk after my coma. That story can touch a lot of people, but through business, I learned I had to niche it down. And for me, my passion is in the school districts because for what I said before. It didn't exist when I was a student, and now I'm trying to play a small part in breaking that mental health stigma.
Now I was gonna bring it up later because I knew it was gonna come up, but I'll go ahead and since we're here now and you talked about your accident.
Right.
Now, mentally, did you ever feel as though you were gonna get past it? Like, do you feel like, like, this is the end, this is it?
I mean, it was one of the most frustrating processes to live in the hospital, as I say, for almost a month, where with a traumatic brain injury, some things are day to day and some are month to month, some are week to week. So I never had a departure date. I was never told when I was going to leaving. So it was just a never ending cycle of waking up to a nurse coming in the room and getting me dressed, then me going to ride an arm bicycle for my basic motor skills, to speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, to give the audience a look at where I was at. After my coma for a few days, a nurse had asked me, Vincent, what school do you go to? I said Pulaski Road Elementary School. And I was a 21-year-old finance student, but my brain was in elementary school. I thought I was in kindergarten. So that's how far back I came from where I was at. That changed everything. I mean, I was a finance student, MBA, whole life wanted the corner office with the title and to make all that money. And then I had a taste of it, and it was just unhappy overall with everything else that went through it. So I stepped back, started writing my first book, and then now we're coming up on the fifth book. We got the podcast series, and I'm just trying to make a difference each day through something terrible that happened to me, turn that negativity into something positive, let people know that you can do it and you're not alone.
Well, okay. So first of all, I would just want to, give you your flowers while you're here, as far as
Yeah,
making
man.
it through something like that, because it's a lot of people that don't make it. So that sitting here drinking water with your light on, comprehending everything I'm saying,
Yeah, man.
writing book. I'm just saying, I'm being honest, because
Appreciate
my
that,
mom
man.
she was a speech pathologist, and she used to have those different clients and people she worked with. And one boy, I remember years ago, he got hit by somebody and he was in the wheelchair. He couldn't really talk. He just made noise and he just kind of sat there. He kind of could wave a little bit and went from a
Right.
regular, to that. So to the fact that you are still here, obviously we can all just assume that God clearly wants you here. You want to use you in many ways, and he's definitely doing it with the books and things and the podcast. And so my next question was, how did your podcast come about? But do you think that is what inspired the podcast?
It's stunning. After I wrote my first book, I said, how am I going to grow this solopreneur budget? Only in my mid 20s, my network isn't vast. What am I going to do? So I said, let me start this podcast. Let me try to grow it off this brand. I reached out to, I hope this is a lesson to everyone listening on. If you want to start something, do those cold messages. I reached out, I Googled the top 50 mental health influencers in the country, top 50 mental health doctors in the country. I cold mail blasted them, LinkedIn, Facebook, email saying, hey, I'm starting this podcast. I love what you're doing, and I want you to be a guest. And out of the numbers game, a few of them hit me back. But my first 10 episodes, I had 3 of the top mental health influencers at the time from Google on my show. Help me bring light. Then all of a sudden, guests wanted to be on my show. I know you know how it is. Where in the beginning you're trying to scramble, get some episodes going. Then all of a sudden, oh
Right.
my God, I got an inventory, I got a plan, I got a second season. And then it just kind of unravels to where now you get the incoming messages. They have the podcast agents now that are constantly feeding guests, people hearing it, feeling the message. And to commend your work, all the great work you do on this show. I think the mental health podcast doesn't have as many downloads, but it does such a bigger service. I think that once down the road my message gets bigger and people start getting attracted to my podcast episodes, my older episodes still get a lot of hits and they keep growing and growing because people start seeing the platform. So I mean, the sky's the limit for you, and I'm trying to do the same.
Well, I appreciate it. I think the thing what'll happen is one of those when you get finally to those platforms that you're trying to get on, is like all of the episodes are just gonna like go from, just an example, say if they're like 400 a episode, it might
Yeah,
go up to like 2,000, 3,000. You like, because people found you and you got that buzz. So it's
right.
just about keeping the momentum until the buzz comes, because that's really what it's all about. Now, before we get into the statistics for the day, and I'm sure you know the answer because I have. Have you ever had a mental breakdown before?
I can describe once during grad school, I was at the point of before I was taking breaks, I knew I started taking care of my mental health really from this moment after my traumatic brain injury. I started to do little things, but I was so far back mentally where I didn't regain my memory for 6 years. Went to grad school with I couldn't remember what I had for lunch and things like that. I drove off the road one day after going like 6 days hard in the library, full classwork as an MBA student, traumatic brain injury, less than a year out, 2 years out. And I drove my car off the road. Gratefully, I wasn't hurt or no one else was hurt, but it was just like this slap in the face, this like cold air that hit me like, I'm not doing good. I gotta stop. I gotta get in the house. And I just, for 2 days, I just did nothing. I just took care of me, ate healthy, got myself back on track. And then now those are all things that they sound so basic, right? Eating right, having enough water, all these things, but use yourself as a case study. One day you have enough water and a bunch of fruit and vegetables or whatever, and the next day you have two things of fast food. Tell me how you feeling, not just physically, but upstairs.
Right. Okay. All right. So I got some info that comes from what is a mental health breakdown and when to seek help. So according to Curtis, who is the psychologist on the research, he says signs of a nervous breakdown are the same as signs of a mental breakdown, though potentially involving more anxiety. Whatever your breakdown is, I'm so depressed I don't want to go do anything. Or if your nervous breakdown symptoms are anxiety based with panic attacks limiting your ability to do anything, it is functionally the same. It says sometimes having a definition that's not appropriately broad becomes a barrier to us to getting the help we need or doing something about it because we tell ourselves our problems aren't that bad. In fact, we train our staff around the idea that you don't define crisis for the patient defines crisis for themselves. So with that, I like that sometimes I think they're basically saying that we get caught up in trying to let somebody define us by definition. And of course that can go broader than just mental health and mental breakdown. But I like that it said that he ended up saying that they don't train their staff to define the patient. He let them tell their story, tell what they've been through, what they're seeing, what they're going through. And
Hmm.
that is interesting to see that a mental breakdown and a mental breakdown and a nervous breakdown are pretty much the same thing. Because I would have thought they were different, but in reality, it's kind of like they basically the same thing.
I like where you said how it's unique right there. It's not a one size fits all. And just like a traumatic brain injury, you said your mother had a lot of these patients. It's just, nah, I mean, mental health as a whole, it's so unique to each, but we could share some.
So now, because I knew you were, I remember you telling me about you working at a school and being one of the teachers. And so, with that, because I think we kind of have similar as far as backgrounds when it comes to the way we know our work as far as that. So,
Yeah.
you do work at a school, but it's summertime, you off. So, I know you're enjoying that.
No, actually, not no more. I did years of substitute teaching, online teaching, and now I scaled back. My part-time hustle is actually Ocean Prime. It's at a restaurant. I've been grinding it out over there on the side, but as far as my books, it takes place with me as the fifth grade teacher.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
What was I about to say? So, because for me, when the summertime come, I say this all the time. I come alive in the summertime. I don't
Yeah.
work. I don't. I mean, I get people want to get their extra money. I get it, but I can't do summer school.
Yeah,
So, with everything you're doing, you work at home from home a lot, correct?
mainly from home. Yeah.
Was you doing this before the pandemic, or the pandemic kind of like made it happen, or you was already doing it?
I'm kind of grateful for the fact that I've been doing it ever since I gave the corporate life up. It was just me and my computer, and I was a very big extrovert. I'm very social, I'm very personable as well. But through the traumatic brain injury recovery and the entrepreneurship, I became much more of an introvert where I'm cool being by myself for, a day, two. I lived alone for so many years where many people I see they need that human interaction. They have to get out of the house, they got to be going, 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 doing something. But for me, that's where I find my peace and I'm able to accomplish things with work in entrepreneurship. As he probably has spoken on it 100 times in the show, it's a lot of hours. Even this podcast stuff from networking to get the guests, prep the guests, record the guests, upload the guests, market the guest. It's a lot. So that's where the time management comes in, I guess.
Now, I'm sure I know the answer, but do you take breaks when you're at home?
Yeah, I can give a little insight. I had an article published on my morning routine. It obviously evolves over time, but when I first wake up, I do a timer for 15 minutes, no screens. In that 15 minutes, I'll get up, do micro chores, dust the table, fix some papers, get at my desk ready, all of that. Then once I get going on the computer, 55-minute alarm, take 5 minutes, eyes off the computer after that. Then I'll do a 50-minute alarm, 10 9 minutes eyes, and then I go to the gym. That's my little routine. Break it out, break it out, break it out. And then as the day goes on, I just stay mindful of the clock. At least every hour, I try to take my eyes off the computer. Things that are easy, take a walk. It's free. You go outside, leave your phone inside, take in those natural noises, the birds, the cars going by. That relaxes me a million and makes me come back ready to go.
Well, see, and I said that because like I felt led to start doing although I still, well, we'll see what happens, but I felt led to do a, what's the word I'm looking for? A routine during this summer to like prepare for, you know, what's to come. And so I started it and then I kind of fell off of it. But I need to get back on it to where I want to set it to where I don't wake up no later than 8 o'clock. And just during the summer. But just to just kind of get my day plan that way and go about it like that. And to wake up for me because I know I need to like get up and like pray and meditate and stuff, but like what I do is if I wake up at 8, I'm not gonna pray and meditate till 8:15 because when I wake up, it's hard for me to just jump out of bed and do anything. Like I just like to just lay there, no matter how hard I try, unless I'm like
Right.
extremely late for something. I just lay there. So I think I want to get back on that and just kind of figuring
All
out
right.
how to get my routine for the rest of the day. But while we're on that topic, what is a tip for anybody who maybe struggles with getting a routine together?
Routines are everything for me. So if I can give you any advice, just start somewhere small. Don't try to do a million things at once. I've been guilty of this many times where I put too much on my plate. I'm very ambitious and then I let myself down. I don't hit those goals. So say you're doing nothing for your mental health, right? And you want to get a little routine. Maybe do 10 minutes of exercise to start out. And then the next day or that few days later, start having some fruits, go grocery shopping, get some fruits and vegetables. And then, within a month, all of a sudden you might have a few new good habits. And then you carry those month to month, day to day. The best thing about mental health boosting, as I call it, things to improve your mental health, is there's so many ways to do it. It's not a one size fits all. As I said before, what works for some won't work for you. Some people hate exercise, but they love to eat healthy. Some people love to get creative, while others might like to just read and take their mind off things. Finding things we enjoy doing, we're passionate about, that's going to improve our mental health because we like doing it. So for me, my work, I love doing it. I find myself working way too many hours, but I don't consider it work. I'm trying to build on what I've got going on, and the
Right.
best is yet to come. It's just we got to lay the groundwork. This is going on 8 years in entrepreneurship where I feel like every time you get one goal, it just unlocks a new door. And now there's more goals you have to hit. And then that unlocks a new door and you keep going.
Right. Right.
Crazy.
Definitely. Life is crazy. So I got some more sources. So according to 7 horrible things that can happen when you don't take breaks while working from home. So you may think some of y'all may say, well, oh, I don't work from home. Well, I work from home, so I don't need all them breaks. I'm at home. But no, that's not true. Now, it's 7 of them, but I picked the 3 that I think were the most important for this conversation. And as always, if you want to go look it up and get the rest of them, then you can do that on your own time. All right. So the first one is you lose focus and concentration. Been a victim of that. Sometimes you be at the house. I'll get more distracted at the house just sitting on the couch than I would anywhere else. So I know that's from personally. 2, I thought this one was interesting, but this I feel like gets left out a lot. It says you might develop neck and back issues. Now I know a lot of us are young and we think we're gonna have these bodies forever. We're not. That's why you have to take care of your body, go to the gym. Don't end up like me. I had some spine issues some years ago
Yeah.
because I didn't stretch properly and I was lifting weights incorrectly. So make sure y'all are stretching. Even if you don't work out, stretch in the morning and at night just because your body
Hmm.
needs it. And you don't want to be them old people that's always hurting Because that's not
Even
too
our
much.
age, man, we still got to stretch. When I'm at work or before the gym, I have to stretch. I've pulled my back just too many times, just trying to grab something, thinking I can just, no big deal. Now I try to stay conscious, use my knees, don't just pick something up.
Absolutely. And then the third one says you find it difficult to make decisions. Now, of course, that is the purpose of this podcast, to make sure that you all are making healthy decisions. And so it says when your mind and body are not rested properly, decision making can get really difficult. A study published in the Journal of Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that judges who skipped breaks during their shifts were so tired that they simply went with the easiest choices and decisions. Now, raise your hand if you ever been in a situation where you just made an easy choice because you ain't feel like thinking. So Your Honor, Your Honor, I gotta go ahead and say that because there's been times where I just have been like, yeah, just pick that. I don't even feel like it, and that's the issue because you functionally, your body may be functioning right, and you may be looking the part. But it's times where somebody just be talking and you just be like, yeah, let's do that. Now you didn't agree to do something that you ain't want to do. Now you over here mad about it. And it's just a lot.
I'm with you there.
Have you ever, and this has happened to me, this is what I'm asking, have you ever agreed to do something by a deadline you really didn't want to do, but you didn't think about it till later on? Like, why did I agree to that? Now it's too late.
I feel like that happens a lot, but I've learned over time to just say no and do things that I'm not being selfish, just doing things that are best for me. Things happen, things come up, but now prioritizing what I need to do is just ever more important because there's never enough hours in the day.
Never.
No.
All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and move into the second, or not the second, but the next. I can't think today, y'all. Let's move into the next segment. Not that one. This one, the weekly sabbatical. All right. So in this one, we just reflect. We just kind of think back. We just kind of reminisce in a sense. So, can you, if you know any of TBI, can you tell us about any statistics on it? If you know any, like how many people have had it, what are the recovery rates? Because I'm sure it was some doctor telling you like, oh, not too many people recover from this or any of that.
I'm going to pull some up so I don't want to misquote your audience here. TBI is a major cause of death and disability. I don't like using the word miracle, but that's the way the doctors, even still, when I see them describe what I went through.
It was.
It's really scary to think back that I had to have someone dress me at 21 years old and ride an arm bicycle just to start to regain motor skills. But it says here, and this is from the CDC, there were over 64,000 TBI related deaths in the United States in 2020. And that's even during a COVID year where people weren't around much doing anything. That's about 176 TBI related deaths every single day. That's a severe brain injury, traumatic brain injury, where something's severely altered. There's mild, moderate, and severe. Mine was severe. And it's just crazy to think back to how dark some of the times were, where the hallucinations, that I can share this part. You didn't know how to separate dreams and reality, what was real, what wasn't. My brain was all over the place, the brain bleeding, the drugs that they gave you in the hospital. I would see blood come out of the showers in the hospital. I thought I was in Silence of the Lambs, just red water coming out. Like, that was pretty scary. The hospital's on the water, and I thought I was on a boat, and I had all these different related dreams slash realities in the hospital. I mean, Jerry Buss, the late Lakers owner, at the time, he must have passed away somewhat around when I was in the hospital. And I still, to this day, have these vivid memories of Jerry and I shooting the shit, just talking. And I talk about this in Left for Dead, my first book. Definitely check that out. It's a hospital day to day. And in the dream, he left me off with two presents. One was a picture of my dog, Lincoln, and I. And the second was a gold chocolate. And then as the dream found out, I found out when I woke up, the gold chocolate was me going to the bathroom in my bed from this dream that I still vividly remember. This guy like he was sitting on my couch in the hospital, like we're just hanging out. And that's how far off my brain was. So I just really try to stress this, like, wherever you're at, just got to start. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just go in the right direction. And I mean, grateful for where I'm at.
So 2 questions. The first one is, you were 21 when this happened. How old are you now?
30.
Okay, so that was what, 9 years ago. That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
Now, do you feel, and this just dropped, do you feel as though Okay, let me ask you this question. I'm gonna ask the other one. Were you always a creative person?
I was always a go-getter, but this whole accident, I mean, forced me to be a creative. I was a MBA guy, finance guy, played sports, all that. But as far as arts and music and anything like that, creative, I wasn't. I now you have to try to find ways to be creative as an entrepreneur, open my wings, and just try to network with people, teach me a thing or two.
Well, and that's why I was about to ask my next question. I was gonna say, do you feel as though the accident made you more creative? And you said it unlocked a whole new key, a whole new. It was a key that unlocked a whole new part of your brain that you didn't even realize was there.
I never thought about no books and this is just all I create in this whole process. Some people create with words like an author. Some create with food if they're a chef. Some create with music. Some create podcast shows. Everybody's a creator. We just create in different ways, and that's what makes us unique.
Absolutely, and that's what I was gonna say. Because now you probably thought you was nuts with all that stuff you be thinking. That even now you probably be thinking like I'm crazy. Like some of the stuff you just randomly think about. Because that's how I be feeling. I be thinking I know I'm nuts. I don't care. I ain't had no accidents. I came out the womb
Entrepreneurs are
nuts.
all we're out there like we don't turn off, and it's hard to explain to people. Although in entrepreneurship, you make little nothing in the beginning, then you start growing your brand and, 9 to 5 is much safer. You make more right away. But in entrepreneurship, whatever the quote is, you work 80, 100 hours a week to avoid the 40-hour week. And I think that if any of my finance jobs, I would have had I never had a mentor in any of the positions. I never found someone who you know, looked for their, spread their wings with me. I just never had that. And I think that really helped me get my last foot out the door. I had 1 foot in, 1 foot out for so long, trying to make money, financial advising, real estate, online teaching, substitute teaching, you name it. It's just all part of the story. And I mean, we all want the finish line, the goal, but I think, and I learned that it's important to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, because once it's over, it's over. That's it.
They say the phrase "I'm here for a good time, not a long time." I have a friend that used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
She pregnant now, but at the time before she was pregnant, she used to be. That was her phrase. All right, so let's move into clearly 7 is our number for the day. It says 7 signs that you need a mental break, and this is by Amanda Patrick. So I got all
I like
7
that.
for these. Now I don't have all the descriptions because I just don't, but for some I do. It says you feel out of control and helpless. It says you've been feeling very overwhelmed with everything in your life to the point where you feel helpless and don't even know how to start fixing it. You are in need of a mental break. You might also need to be headed toward a breakdown. So giving yourself some time right now is the best way to avoid it. And I'm all for that because it's times when we feel stagnant, we feel stuck. That's the sign. I feel like God is saying you need to sit with me, take some break. Just get yourself together in another way because clearly what you're doing ain't working. And
Hmm.
we feel kind of pushed sometimes to keep just going. And now let me try. Like I know for a fact, one thing I actually probably I'll say this. I'll probably take too many breaks because I know like I was supposed to do some scripts to get some scripts or outlines done for my shows. And I remember I was just like, I'll do it later. I can't do it right now. So do you ever struggle with any procrastination at times?
Yeah, I think we have to all be guilty of it. Things that work well for me is if I time block. Most of my days I'm time blocking, before bed, the night before, I'm time blocking what I got to do. It helps me not really rear off course. And I actually usually finish those tasks quickly or more quickly than if I just winged it. Cause then you get down the email rabbit hole or you start doing something else. And because there's always something to do in entrepreneurship. But even procrastination on weeks where I overload my part time gig, um, I still have my own obligations, even if I have no Zooms on the books for the day. Still got to get my podcast out. Like today, I've been busy this week. I got my entrepreneur show podcast coming out tonight. We got to get that edited up. So I could have done that last night, but I was real beat up last night from working at the restaurant. Hospitality. Shout out to anybody who does it. I mean, the toll it takes on you is crazy. I even would go as far to say that after working in hospitality and being disrespected in different areas, you wouldn't believe what people would say to you. I think it would be so great if like a mandate when you're in school, high school, middle school, you got to work at least 1 year in hospitality. You got to serve somebody else. You got to go through each step of the process, wash dishes, serve, all of that. I think it would humble everybody tremendously.
Well, I was gonna say, whenever I'm in Tampa, I'm gonna come to I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we got
come
to get
to,
up. Yeah.
and that'll be fun. That would be fun because I will come and I like to, I spend a little too much money on food, but that's okay.
Hey,
But that would
food's
be
one of the
fun.
best things to do that.
Yeah, for sure. The second one says you never have time for yourself. Your brain needs downtime to daydream and just chill out. Do you allow yourself time to have fun? There is no amount of work that should be more important than having a little self care, preferably on a daily basis, but at least on a regular basis. I daydream every day. That my thoughts is all off the chain, they off the wall. The visions I get. So,
Hmm.
third says your work is suffering. Anytime your work is suffering, you need a break.
Absolutely.
4 says you are sick more often. I've talked about that at the beginning of the episode, and it's kind of reared its, come back through. As a child, I used to be real sickly. I used to be sick all the time. I don't think it was because I worked too hard. I just think I was a sickly child. But recently, I've kind of felt some sickness, and I think maybe some borderline dehydration because when I got off work, my last day of work officially was June 6th. That weekend was my birthday stuff in Houston. After that, I took 2 days off, went to New York for 4 days, came back for here for a day and a half, then went back to St. Louis for 5 days, then came back to Houston after that. And I was just tired.
I bet, man.
I was low key feeling sick one day. It was a lot going on. So that happened kind of recently. 5, it says your relationships are suffering. Anytime you can't see people, and I just feel like, and I'm really big on that. You don't know when you're gonna see people again. You just don't know mentally what people going through. You know, these shootings, the just sick. You just never know. And I think that we need to adjust. I think if the pandemic didn't do anything else, it just taught you just to appreciate people because you just never know. 6, it says your anxiety or stress has worsened. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then 7, which is the last one, it says you are headed for a nervous breakdown. One of the most common signs you need to take your mental health seriously and get a break is when you might be headed for a nervous breakdown. These signs are very similar to those that you have when you are overwhelmed and burnt out, but they don't seem to let up. Now, I like that they highlight that it doesn't seem to let up. Nervous breakdown or a mental breakdown. So this is another source that kind of refers to them as the same thing. It says it's when you get stressed to the maximum level. You may have a combination of these signs. You
Hmm.
feel like quitting your job, you feel like running away, you can't sleep, you make rash decisions, you feel depressed, you have constant fatigue. And then it says, finally, not everyone snaps as you might see portrayed on TV, but many people just get to the point where they can no longer handle anything extra. I do like a lot of times these days, the shows will just in the past portray somebody who had a mental breakdown as somebody who was flipping over tables and pulling curtains out the windows and pulling their hair
Hmm.
out their head. But in reality, sometimes mental breakdowns are not even always people crying or intense emotions. Sometimes it's just like you just laying on your bed, just looking at the ceiling fan, just like whatever. And I think that it's good that we, like we said earlier, they're highlighting this kind of stuff now. Have you ever dealt with a family member or close friend that you could tell was having a mental breakdown?
Yeah, and it happens especially a lot after COVID when people have a lot of things on their plate. It may just get bottled up on one thing, and we're all guilty of that at points in our lives. It's just like you said in that article, you got to take breaks. And even talked, I think the second one you said was taking like making sure you could focus on yourself before you focus on other things. I'm big on the mental health day. We always have a million things to do. For me, during football season, Sunday is my mental health day. No matter how much work we do, just have a notepad and just write things down. Don't even open the computer and just reset. Make sure you take that time for yourself. I even talk about that. That's my chapter. And Mr. Lanci talks mental health. Things I talk on and my expertise areas. Regularly rest both your body and mind. Take mental health breaks each day and give yourself a mental health day each week. And I think we spoke about all those things just throughout the episode. Just
Absolutely.
through our normal
Absolutely.
conversation, they came up anyway. And that's just things that they're so simple. Go, go, go. That's what we do after COVID. Like, we're not after COVID, but as I say, hopefully at the rear end of COVID, we're back to life, right? People are at sporting games again without masks. People are at concerts, not just here in Florida. People are in the
Or
country doing
Texas.
things again. Yeah, in Texas. I mean, now we're getting overpopulated because a million reasons why, but it's just nice to see. And I just hope that if we take a little time for ourselves, reset, maybe we can do it together.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, y'all. So we coming close to the end. So you know it's time for game time. All right, so this game is called Fall Back or Push Through. I'm gonna name a few scenarios for my boy Vincent here, and I want him to tell me whether this person should fall back or push through. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Brain is hurting, deadlines are due, and you want to take a quick nap. Do you fall back and take the nap, or you push through and finish the work?
Fall back, take the quick nap.
I agree because I can't think straight if I'm sleepy. It just don't work. I've tried, it don't work.
And we said before, people brag about 4 hours of sleep. For me, people call me like a grandpa. Like I'm getting 8. People 6 to 8. Sometimes I can get 6, but I mean, if I'm not, working at a restaurant or I'm doing something, I'm laying down 8, 9 o'clock. And if I get to 3, 4, 5, like I'm up. I'm a little weird with my mornings. Like I'm a morning person. I'm up there because I don't stay up late. But without sleep, I'm nothing.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said you cooked all day long and now you want to rest and eat, but then you feel the urge to go and cook some more because you find out some more guests are coming. Do you push through or you fall back?
I don't think you can let your guests down. You gotta get back up.
You got to push through.
Yes, sir.
Your deadline for your book is this Friday. You're more than halfway done, and today is Monday. Do you fall back and ask for an extension, or you just push through? Now we got to finish it.
You push through with that mama mentality. Kobe Bryant, you rest when the work's done. You don't rest in the middle.
All right. You've been dealing with many migraines, but you've been at work on your feet for the last 2 weeks straight. Do you call in tomorrow and take a mental health day and fall back, or do you push through and just finish off until the weekend?
I think with that situation, you gotta fall back.
I agree. I agree. Finally, it's time for your podcast to be known by all. It's time for you to be celebrated on a national scale. However, somebody called for one of your books to be celebrated on a national scale. Do you fall back on one of them, or you gonna make sure you're gonna push to make them both work and get celebration for both of them?
I think we're gonna have to make them both work because you got to understand people that support you. You got to make sure they know they're appreciated. And some of my podcast supporters are not my book supporters, vice versa. Some people love to read, some people love to listen, all these things. So I think you got to challenge yourself in that situation and push through.
All right, I can dig it. All right, y'all. So that is it. Let's get on to our question and challenge for the week. So I want you to tell me a time when you didn't take a break and you should have. And then I want to challenge you to take at least a 20-minute break to truly rest this week a day. So, of course, if you have a regular job, you get a lunch break, but are you actually resting on your lunch break?
Good
Because
call.
sometimes people work. Now, of course, you have your days where you got to get some work done. You got to work through the lunch break, but are you actually just chilling? And I want you to at least do that. All right. So it was a great episode, and I knew it was going to be. Is there anything you want to leave the people with before you go?
I want to start off. Thank you again, Izzy, for bringing me onto your show, the opportunity to chat with your audience. I want to remind everyone that you're not alone and that it's going to take time. Take the breaks, take care of yourself, keep yourself healthy because if you get yourself sick, you get yourself in a bad funk, it's just going to lead to more repercussions and it's going to be a downward spiral. Take little progress into big wins, start somewhere, challenge yourself, of course, of all things, and make sure you find something to make yourself smile each week.
All right, I can dig it. I like it. All right, y'all. So next week we have for track 4, which is being an advocate. All right, for a black man. So make sure y'all check that out. All right. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are and make your mind up. Don't let it make